Senku was the better mean protagonist than Joro was. Joro had his high points, but he
Yeah,
couldn't hold a candle to Senku's just
ruthlessness.
ruthlessness. Yeah, his he's not really depraved. Because Joro
No,
has a depravity there, or he'll
Senku was exploitive.
yeah, Joro will put it into anything that says okay to him.
You're not wrong.
I still like that one of my favorite parts was that he decides to do something because some chick says he'd send him nudes. That's the type of character I like.
He had his moments. He had his moments of being a solid character and the character we wanted him to be. And then
Yeah,
there were fucking moments where he was a fucking asshole in
not
a
just an
bad
asshole,
way.
like just a fucking fuck.
Yeah, the entire fucking last episode where he was just rolled over and died basically for 3/4 of it. My friend has asked my girlfriend out again. I guess I'll do nothing. I'll just whine to myself about how my life is so miserable as
In
eight
the
girls fight to blow me.
in the easiest fucking twist to see.
Yeah, the twist that we all saw coming from like 19 miles away. And even then, I'm still annoyed about the fact that they were standing alone in a room with. I mean, technically there was a person listening, but there's no
But
way they
they
knew.
didn't know.
They didn't know. They thought they were alone in a room with no one around.
Nick,
Dude didn't even say
I'm
like,
pretty sure
"Dude, it's a
complained
play."
about this for a good 5 minutes when it came out.
We did, but I'm still annoyed. Like every time I think about it, I get annoyed again. Much like every time I think about the fact that that show didn't have a fucking ending, I get annoyed.
uh, well, okay, we should really start. So we're back again with episode 103 of ABC.
Yeah,
Um, and we're here to talk about the ending of Wave Listen to Me, Sing Yesterday to Me, and then whatever happened in Fruits Basket, because that didn't
yeah.
end yet.
Assuming that Brandon is going to cut this in, we're going to talk about shows that actually had an ending.
I'll try to wait
Assuming
to
he's
keep in the Jura stuff.
okay.
Anyways, yeah, we're gonna show about so we're gonna talk about some shows that actually ended. Much to our dismay for one of them. Well, I'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into this.
First, in my opinion, a show. Well, first off, I'm Brandon, and that's Nick.
I'm Nick.
Anyways, first off, a show that I thought actually had a decent ending for a story that's continuing,
Mhm.
and that's Wave Listen to Me.
Yeah, it was a surprise ending. I think we talked about this last time about how last episode felt very final, and we didn't know what they were going to do. We were expecting more of like a personal wrap up moment for all of the characters or something. And then in this show's classic way, it just
Earthquake.
threw more plot at us
Okay,
instead.
right. There's the plot of the Joker Skonsky, which
Yeah,
they just started. I'm like, what the fuck? No,
that,
it's too
that
late
came
for
out of
this.
nowhere like 3 fucking minutes into this episode. They were like, "Hey, remember creepy brother lady murder thing that you thought was going to be a thing? Guess what? We're also going to throw a radio show host into that mix
What is
because
up
apparently
with
she
her?
has a fucking job." Oh my god, that's. I mean, okay, that happened, and then immediately went back burner. Like we never came back to that.
I was the sponge gar because I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Like that took me by surprise. I'm like, what's going on? Why this now?
Yeah,
I feel
and
like
it happened so early. You were like, "Are they setting up? Like, is this going to be the thing in the last episode? Is she going to be like a competing radio host host, and Minari is going to find out about it, and she's going to get upset about like, you're doing everything that I do. You're becoming me."
I feel like at some point it's going to become relevant in the manga. But for this adaptation, I feel like they could have hidden that away and just kept the park the scene in the park where she's drinking, saying, "Oh, I'm celebrating." Then the reader gets or the watcher gets like that sense of mystery, like, "Oh, why is she celebrating? We don't know, right?
Hmm.
We need to find out." So I don't think
My
anything
only
is
assumption is
lost.
maybe it's like maybe the expectation is like Wave Listen to Me is doing well and it's like popular in Japan and there might be like a second season somewhere down the line a couple years from now.
It's either that or they're just trying to be very, very close
True
to
to
the
the
manga,
adapt.
true to the
Uh huh.
manga, yeah. And as some people would like that, sometimes that can get kind of in the way. Like in this case, where they started like this little plot point, which
Uh huh.
goes nowhere because we don't have any more things to watch. We have to read it.
Yeah.
So it makes for
And I mean,
a worse
it's
self-contained
something that's
story.
there. It's short enough that I don't really care that they did it almost.
Right.
Like it was 30 seconds of a thing where I'm like, maybe they were just following the manga pretty closely, and that's a scene that they had because it was there, and ultimately I don't think it mattered, but it was fucking funny to me that like in the literally 11th hour they were like, hey, here's
Here's some
something
more
else.
shit.
In case there wasn't enough plot on top, pile on top of all of this other shit that we've given you, here's a little bit more stuff that we haven't actually dealt with.
And this isn't even bringing up the fact that there's a fucking earthquake.
Yeah, and that's the actual substance of it. Is in what is supposed to be the final radio show of this episode or in the series, where Minare is supposed to do a whole bunch of like little bits, essentially from that were recommended by the viewers,
Yeah,
and basically
trying
talk
to
about who she is.
no, she's trying to figure out what, like little ideas she should do for the show.
Yeah. In the middle of that, there is an earthquake, and she basically has to turn into
Like like a news
a
reporter,
disaster.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and she
She kind of like
originally,
flubs it up for a bit until
yeah.
like she kind of like comes to her own.
Mhm.
Basically, this episode, like she's already had her arc. This episode shows us that she's changed and is actually getting much better at what she's doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way to have this show get the send off.
I did appreciate at the very beginning of it, she starts her podcast or her podcast. She starts
The
her
ones with
radio
podcasts.
show, much like how we do the podcast, in which she just insults her listeners for being there.
What the fuck you
And
listen to
she's
this at
like,
3 a.m.?
yeah.
What is wrong
I
with
guess
you?
if you're listening to this at 3 a.m., I guess you just got done pinning a fucking voodoo doll to a tree. So now you're here to listen to me talk for a while. And I'm like, I just appreciate that she has the exact same interaction with her viewers as we do.
Minare's fucking awesome. I fucking love her.
I do too. She's great. Um, but yeah, we have the earthquake, and Minari turns into her own version of disaster news reporter. As originally she gives out, important information of stay safe, pull over to the side of the road, look out for tsunamis, things like that. And then transition to a little bit more of her own style as she interacts with her viewers or her listeners, and she reads what they're sending her because originally they were asked to send in ideas and they could still send them in while she was live on air. Now they're sending in, what's going on in their town and how are they feeling and how are they doing, and sort of words of encouragement and support for the rest of the people listening.
Yeah,
And she
she's
reads them
helping
out
out the
and basically just
community.
interacts with people. Yeah. And she does this for about 2 hours
Yeah,
altogether
from 3 a.m. to
until.
about 5 a.m. until the other radio show host lady comes by and
Mhm.
relieves her of that job. And we finally actually get to see, not for an extended amount of time, but for more than we've seen her before, actually, the old one actually do her style of the show. And it's much
Mhm.
more serene. She has a very calming voice. It was soothing. At least to me it was.
Yeah. She also pronounced English words fucking fabulously.
Yes. September Blue Moon. Which I thought it was going to be a English song until the lyrics started.
I did too, kind of. It took me a while to figure out like why the September Blue Moon pronunciation was like so shockingly right. She didn't like mess up the R in September at all.
Yeah.
Like R's are usually the vowel or the consonant sound that gets messed up the worst in
Or L's as
Japanese
well.
accents. And she did fucking fantastic. Yeah, L's as well. She did really excellently. I mean, it basically sounded like a native speaker. So that
Kind of.
was.
I still felt there was something off. Like there was an accent. But like for the most part, it was great. Like better than we've heard before. It wasn't like
Yeah.
English.
So I always appreciate like when English gets mixed in. I always appreciate like analyzing or looking at like how it's presented in Japanese media. Like we talked about with Megalobox and their English actor who just sounded super awkward.
Yeah. God. Yeah. Not that you bring that up, it was really weird. Even though he was, I think we found out that he was like an Australian guy.
Yeah,
I think he was just like an Australian guy that they had like off in the corner, like, hey, read these, and he was like, oh, okay.
yeah. Say these words. Yeah. Um, and it definitely felt like they were probably different takes cut together
Maybe.
because it
Yeah.
didn't sound naturally
Didn't
like
flow well.
strung together. Um, but anyways, yeah. So we see the other radio show host do her, little bit and talk about September Blue Moon and the fact that with all of the power out, the stars look so beautiful.
Yeah, we have a nice little like short interlude where it's just a song playing and we just see the stars and people doing stuff.
Hmm.
We see a montage of the other guy, Katomo, I think, the AD's boyfriend, just going around. He was originally recording like the sounds of wind up on the
Yeah.
mountain. He sees the earthquake and starts to go fix up some of the radio station relays around. And apparently everyone has like this, in an emergency, this is like everything you have to do since we're a part of like this radio. station.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see. It reminds me of like a disaster movie. And it was just interesting. Like while I was watching, I'm like, damn, this is really cool, and it made me want to watch like a disaster show. It actually made me want to watch Godzilla by oh my god, the director of Evangelion. What's his name? Fuck,
I don't remember. I'll be
Hidekiano.
honest. Yeah.
Because apparently, like it's a lot like that. It reminded me of the episode where in Evangelion where they're trying to get power to the rifle, where
Uh-huh.
like it's basically just a lot of everyone basically doing their desk jobs, trying to get like basically working all the operations. It's
Right.
just intriguing. It gripped me. It was just cool.
All right. But we also see the Yankee guy whose name we never learned, and the
Nikahara
radio lady.
and the other, yeah, I don't know her name.
Yeah,
Me something.
creepy brother radio lady, as they go to the curry shop to basically set up like an impromptu soup kitchen.
And here, hey, the curry soup comes back.
Yeah, and the curry soup comes all the way back from the episode that I complained about forever ago, which again, I will state, Pointless Arc does not need to exist. There was very small payoff to this.
We don't. There could be more payoff. It's curry soup, Nick. It just keeps on giving.
I mean, maybe there will continue to be payoff for this curry soup.
Did
But
you?
in something you do have to admit, in something that I complained about from forever ago, there was the tiniest glimmer of payoff in this episode, where they use the soup from all of those, whatever it is, months or years ago, in the soup kitchen to give away for free.
There was also. Did you notice that the master chef was trying to grab the brother's ass?
Oh yeah, when the earthquake first starts, we see the chef dude going in for an ass grab,
Yep.
and the earthquake throws him off. I mean, they did say that he liked grabbing boys' butts.
Yep. He likes the booty.
But yeah, we see basically like people finding a new drive in life
Yeah,
as the
everyone
radio
kind of.
lady gets to experience something, and we see the Yankee guy talk about like his dream of starting his own shop and employing the creepy brother radio lady. We
Creepy
see
brother.
Minare as she stands outside and basically says like, "I'm gonna make my own way in radio," and then immediately backtrack on that.
Yeah. Well, no, she doesn't. Instead, they ask her like, "Hey, let's go to the curry shop." And she's like, "Damn it! I just had this cool monologue."
Yeah, but then she acknowledges like, even if I had that monologue, I can't do it all on radio. I have to do another job. So I guess Curry's good enough for now again.
Oh, I thought she couldn't do it alone.
Oh, I assumed that she was saying, I forget what the line exactly was, but I thought it was more implying like she couldn't do radio alone and survive.
Oh,
Much,
yeah.
much like
I
when
can
she
see
wanted to
that.
quit and then she looked up or she got her salary like quote was like, never mind, I'm gonna stay employed.
Yeah, I can see that being what it was too. Okay.
Hmm.
But yeah, this is a nice send off to the show in my opinion.
It
Um,
was,
there were
even
like
if it was like sort of extra plot out of nowhere. It did actually at the same time do like a nice job of sort of wrapping up a lot of characters' arcs. Even though it didn't really wrap up creepy brother lady, like we did see her in a better place than when we first met her.
it seems
And
more
like,
that creepy brother is now like understanding that she's her own person and is trying to give her space, and also
mhm.
like working to actually do that and but still have a relationship with her.
Well, maybe we really don't know what's going on with
There
him.
was more of like a glance, and I took
He,
everything from that glance.
yeah, he wasn't weird in the like 5 minute scene where he was standing in the curry restaurant. So at least there's that.
Yeah,
He didn't choke
at
somebody.
least he grew, Nick, and we were able to see that growth.
I mean, maybe let's not give him a lot of credit.
He didn't freak out. He didn't freak out, and that's growth. That's one step at a time.
That's okay, maybe. Um, but yeah, we see. Oh, excuse me. That she's definitely in a better place. We see the Curry, delinquent, uh, sort of have a direction and like a drive to create his own restaurant and do all this stuff and create like the restaurant that he wants to have. So it is kind of interesting that like even with the earthquake that came out of nowhere, we still did get sort of what we predicted in like a little character wrap up thing. The assistant director asked the writer who was basically leaving radio if when someday she became a director, if he would come back and write the first episode that she did for her.
No, 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 Nick. When she does, I
Wait,
believe in
okay,
Mizuho.
okay, that's fair. Um, but yeah, we got like nice little wrap ups for a lot of the main characters. We never really dealt with the guy who was recording wind sounds all that much. We don't really know much about his character, so he didn't get like a little
Yeah,
wrap up thing, but he also didn't have a character arc to wrap up, so I guess it kind of makes sense.
he had the whole thing with his relationship with Mizuho.
Okay, we took that from like one scene in like the third episode.
There's a
I
couple.
really think we read way too much into that scene.
there are a couple moments though where like they were interacting.
There were
They're
like a
small moments.
handful.
I think it's gonna become more important later on.
There was one scene and then like an additional 30 seconds spread between like 4 episodes. I think you're right. I think it will come up in later, like in later
Volumes,
chapters.
yeah,
Um, but for like the show that was presented, the 12 episodes that we got, it definitely was not a character arc, I would say. So
yeah.
it makes sense that they didn't have to wrap it up or didn't do anything to wrap it up.
Also, for being in the opening, the other senior radio lady didn't do jack shit.
Yeah, she did fucking
She shows
nothing.
up the first episode, has a Snyder mark in like the 10th episode, and then comes back this episode.
Yeah, and maybe has a weird look in like the third episode, but maybe she didn't, and it was just like an awkward close up. But yeah, that was like for being in the opening and occasionally being in the ending.
Occasionally, she's like always in the ending.
Well, I more mean like the charcoal drawings that they freeze on at the very end.
Oh, okay.
Mostly because I only really watched the ending once, and then I would just skip ahead to the next episode preview. So like the only part of the ending I would actually see is the last drawing.
Like the fan art type stuff. Well, not the fan art, but just the art.
The charcoal drawings or whatever they were. And it would change like who it was, and sometimes it was that lady.
Okay.
But yeah, she did nothing in this series or in these episodes. But yeah, we will. I guess we won't see anymore because there is no confirmed season 2, so we don't know if it'll ever come back or not.
So Nick, would you recommend this, and what rating would you give it in your own rating system?
I would recommend this. I would give it an 8 out of 10. I would say. Arguments could be made for a 9, but I'm gonna say 8.
Okay.
Mostly because the plot was entertaining and funny and well designed, or not well designed. That's
some parts were well designed, in my opinion.
Yeah, the parts that they dealt with were well designed. There was just a lot of extra that was layered on top of it. I felt like.
Yeah, and we didn't know what was important and what wasn't at points.
Yeah.
So it made it a bit confusing.
Yeah. So while it was funny and largely good, and it's why I'm giving it an 8 out of 10, and I would recommend it. The reason why I can't, in good faith, say like 9 or 10 is because there was definitely elements of the plot that I was left asking, like, why did this exist?
It needed to be tighter.
Something that I was reminded of in this episode that we never dealt with was from the exorcism episode.
Oh, right. What happened to the lady?
Dealt with that dude's girlfriend. Yes. Yeah. Like, that was a major part of that first episode with the exorcism thing, was when we were listening to the story about, like, the lady who got lost in the fucking snow at the hot springs thing. We never dealt with that again. Like, after that, it just became about the rotting meat in the ceiling. That's all we dealt with. We never dealt with that lady. Like, that was a whole story that we got told just for the payoff of there's a dead person in the ceiling.
Well, the payoff to Minare's a disgusting motherfucker.
Yeah, I guess that is the ultimate payoff, is, yeah. And the rotting meat. But, like, we never dealt with that lady. And, like, that was a thing. And it got brought up in this episode as the dude's looking at the picture of the two of them again. We never dealt with that lady. We never dealt with the other radio show host. Like, she's just a thing. She's like a specter that hangs over this whole show that we never talked about. Like, nobody ever talked about that old radio show host, really. She got brought up, like, maybe twice in conversation. But other than that, like, we never really talked about her. Like, there was a lot of stuff. Not a lot of stuff. There was some stuff in this show that the show spent a decent amount of time dealing with, or, like, brought up and would talk about and sort of give life to, that we never dealt with, that never had any payoff or like any, explanation of what it meant.
Would your opinion of that change if there was a second season that ended the actual story and brought those things back?
I would say so.
Okay.
I think that it's something I've talked about before with like the medium and how if as a director you have to make decisions sometimes about like how to present what you're going to present and the number of episodes that you get allotted. And I think I had the feeling like they decided to present the story the way they were with the hope of somewhere down the line getting a second season. Whether it's doing well in Japan or not, and that was their basis of like, we think that it's popular enough that we'll get a second season, or they just wanted to be true to the manga. I think the director was consciously deciding to work towards the assumption of maybe getting a second shot at telling the rest of the story that exists. But I think just judging on the 12 episodes we got, I would say 8. I think if we did get another 12 and it expanded on stuff, and stuff from the first season came back in the second season with like another payoff, and like more stuff got built onto it. Like we do an
You're
episode where we
thinking of
go
that
look
curry.
for that. Yeah, we do an episode where we go look for that lady who got lost in the snow, or like lost in the hot springs, and we go investigate. Or like if it got brought up in the user submitted things, was like go to that hot spring and find out more about that lady.
Oh, right, because
Like
that
if it
episode got
got
recorded.
yeah,
Oh wait, I don't know if it
so,
got released because of the
that is a good
whole.
point. Well,
Yeah.
maybe. Um, but like if we dealt with that in season two, I think I would then retroactively say the first season is better now because there was payoff to more things. But I think as it stands, I would say the first season, the 12 episodes that we saw, I would say 8 out of 10. But I would recommend it.
I was gonna give it 4 waves out of 5.
Okay.
4 happy waves out of 5, mind you.
Uh-huh. The waves are listening.
No, like actual waves. People,
Okay.
having their
Uh-huh.
hands out, moving their hands around.
Okay.
And yeah, I have basically the same complaints as you did. There are a lot of things that should have been, tied around better. But overall, I thought it was a great show. Voice acting was fucking phenomenal. Um, Basically, the show is definitely the character of Minare is carried on that voice actress. She did a fantastic fucking job.
She really did.
Um, and that's my highest praise is to how Minari basically just Minari, because she is the center of the show. Even though we
Uh-huh.
kind of go around and visit other characters, like she is like at the center, always trying to like she's basically has her finger in every fucking story that's going on. So that's why she has has to be good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked it the same. I had the same complaints as you did, and I'd still recommend it. I'd still
Mhm.
want people to watch it. I think it's funny, and I think people would really like it, especially if if they like Minari as a character. I think they'd like the rest of the show.
I would say so. A lot of the other characters, like their sense of humor or like who they are in their character, they don't factor in nearly as heavily as Minari does. I think a person's enjoyment of the show will be entirely dependent on whether or not they can deal with Minare and
Minari's
the type of characters she is.
and how she's a fucking complete mess.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, but it was for a show that was entirely about radio and like the radio dramas that they were presenting. I think it was a good mix of being the radio show and not being the radio show.
like
Like
the
I
real life
complained about
aspect.
this. Yeah,
Yeah,
I complained about this way back at the beginning because it did take us a while to get started,
it
and
took
that
us
was my
around to like
complaint.
episode 5, I
Yeah,
think.
but once it got rolling with the radio show, I think it did a good job of like managing the balance from then on.
There was about
Uh,
either like one half episode long one or one shorter one mixed into the episodes
yeah,
per episode.
and that was about the balance I wanted, and I did talk about it back then. Of like I wanted it to be about the radio show, and so I do feel like I need to go back now and say, once they got started, they did a good job of making it enough about the radio show to like keep you going and really like come up with Minari and see like her getting better and her presentation, like the storyline that they were doing, and at the same time like doing the out of the radio show stuff where we went on like the date with Mitsuo and we got to see Minari be a bit of a fuck for a while and then suplex that dude.
She was a bit of a fuck.
She was.
But that's the show. That's way to listen to me.
Yeah.
Fucking fantastic. A little underappreciated in my opinion.
Mhm.
Not super popular, and I hope it gets some views, get some listens.
Yeah. I hope for a second season and another 12 episodes because I would like to recommend it even. I would like to rate it even more highly, but we will see what happens.
Up next is our second show, Seeing Yesterday to Me, which also ended.
Mhm.
Originally thought there were going to be 18 episodes, 12 like aired, and then 6 like web exclusives. At this point, we understand now that the web exclusives probably meant the little shorts they had at the end of some of the episodes. So the show has actually ended.
Yeah.
Nick has things to say. I
Yeah.
have also things to say, and I think we might be saying the same thing.
Uh-huh.
But
You
I'm
can start, and I will fill in as I work my way up into my rage.
I didn't get mad. I thought this ending was like, I was like, all right, fuck it, it's okay.
Uh-huh.
But there are, I think, in my opinion, major issues.
Mhm.
So basically, it's split up into two halves. The first half, we pick up where we left off. Ro finds out that Shinako and Riku are going out together. Shinako goes and chases after him. And then after a while, we see like a little montage of kind of their lives. Shinako's still acting a little weird. And then we get another date between Shinako and Rikuo. And in the date, it basically ends with them on a bench talking about how their relationship's weird and awkward, and they finally just decide to be friends. And I think Shinako decides to be with Ro. I didn't really know.
That was left more of a question mark. Yeah, I would agree. That was weird.
But essentially, like that's what they come to, is that they can't really have this. They can't really make this relationship work. So they decide to end it. And then Rikuo decides that he loves Haru.
Yeah.
And then he runs after her, and then they get together at the second half.
Yeah.
And that's basically the show.
Yeah.
So when Rikuo decides that he likes Haru, it seemed cheap. Like, it just happens. And I was a little annoyed. Like, the whole stuff with Shinako, sure, their entire, like, relationship was frustrating. Also, I called it, but anyways.
You did.
Like, it was a little frustrating. It could have been handled a lot better. But the Haru stuff, like, Haru needed to be more, less of... The relationship needed to be less Rikuo's annoyed at Haru, and more like Rikuo and Haru, like, kind of have this weird relationship where he still likes the other girl, but maybe he also likes Haru. We need to get glimpses of that throughout the episodes.
Yeah.
We get that in, like, the first 3 episodes, and then, you know, between 3 and 11, it's Haru, shut the fuck up, go back home.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's Haru, stay with me forever. And it once again felt really cheap.
It really did.
Ro doesn't grow as a person. He's still a little fuck. Shinako also doesn't really grow. Like, nothing really changes with her. Rikuo changes in the last minute because the author wanted him to end up with Haru. Haru has a bird in a cage now.
Yeah.
Basically, what I'm saying is nobody grew. Nobody changed.
Yeah. Worked myself up into a good lather now.
Nick's got his cock out, ready to start going. He's going to start baiting.
Go away, I'm baiting. Your Honor, he interrupted me while I was baiting. You're supposed to be my defense attorney.
All right, so
anyways, reference idiocracy aside. Okay, so the only good thing I have to say about this entire fucking ending is Rikuo and Shinako's breakup was honestly the only part of this I actually liked.
I thought it was okay.
Because it was the only part of this whole ending in which, like, it felt like a character arc reached a point in which the characters actually grew. Shinako didn't grow a lot. I will agree with you there. Shinako is still, like, fucked up in the head and in love with her dead boyfriend and has all sorts of problems. And is, like, babying Ro, which I'll get into here in a second.
Yeah, I'm going to complain about that fucking relationship in a second, too.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But at the very least, it's a show in which I complained about this for however many episodes. I whined about this. And so I do feel compelled to at least say now, in the final episode, the arc that started with Riko was in love with Shinako, and Shinako said no, and then they couldn't be friends, and then they still were friends, and they started dating, and they tried to date, and it ended here with them finally realizing how to not be in love with each other, but still be friends. I thought that moment of them as two characters growing and understanding, like, we don't love each other, like, we were in love with the idea of each other, but we're not actually in love with each other. We have, like, people and different things in our lives that we would choose over each other. We can't actually be in love, but we can be friends still. Yeah. I thought that was good character growth. I liked...
The line, this is the right distance for us, was basically what encapsulated the relationship in the end.
And cool. I liked that. That was good. That was the only part of this ending in which it felt like two characters had grown from the beginning in a way that was appreciable.
It was bittersweet, but it made sense, and I wasn't pissed off. Like, it didn't frustrate me.
Yeah. We'll do Ro and Shinako here, because holy shit do I have words about this. First of all, Ro is 17, I'm pretty sure.
Graduated?
Maybe? Okay, that's the other thing, is we don't fucking know how old anybody is in the show.
I don't really, at this point, I don't really care how old he is. It's just that she's constantly babying him.
Yeah.
This relationship is just so fucking weird. Ro doesn't grow up.
Ro doesn't grow up, and Shinako doesn't, like, let him. Like, she is fucking an adult, and he is a kid still, and she's still, like, trying to be his mom basically at like every stage, and it's not like letting him go be his own person. And they do this whole thing of like, oh, you thought you could sneak around, bitch? I'm not fucking related to you. I don't have to sneak around and do shit. Like, oh my god,
Yeah,
that infuriated me.
his
I was
arc, his
angry.
arc should have been kind of similar to Rikuo's, where they both find out no matter how much you love someone, they might not love you back, and you have to be
Yeah.
okay with that. And then like
And
Rose
like I
should have
thought
like
that's what it was. Like 3 or 2 episodes ago, we got the Ro arc of like I love you, I will be my brother's surrogate, and you can love me in his place, and all that other shit. And Shinako basically rejected him. Like I thought that was the end of this. Like I thought Ro was just gonna get the fuck over it. But this is a thing in manga and anime that people just never get fucking over it.
it
Like
was
people don't
annoying.
just let their relationship or let their crushes die, and it is infuriating. And I hated it. I hated the Ro and Shinako moment of her like running after him, and they have this whole thing of like, you were fucking the worst, and I hate you. It was so infuriating.
Shinako had, I think, in order for Shinako in this relationship for her to grow, she should have gotten mad at him, and Rose should have been like, "Oh my god, I fucked up."
Yeah,
That would be like, and then Shinako can like apologize for like outbursting because it's
mhm.
something she would do, and that's okay. But like, she needed to have an outburst,
Yeah.
and
She
like,
needed to take a stand again, like reestablishing the fact that she said that she was not interested in Ro. She needed to assert again here that Ro needed to butt out. That it was not his relationship. That they were not ever going to be like that. That he needed to not be so like judgy and possessive of her.
and
And
not only
instead,
that,
she
but
just
then he's
rolls
rewarded
over.
for it at the end, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And that's the other thing is, yeah, like Ro grows up. But that's the other thing is, I did kind of appreciate Ro moves out in the wake of all this, and why it happened annoys me. But Ro decides to like move up, like or not move up,
Move out.
move out, and sort of grow up. And he goes to live in like the student dorm of maybe the art college that it's attending. Again, we don't really know what Ro's going on and doing, but I also don't really care. But Ro goes and moves into like some sort of like student housing type thing, and we see that Chinako, as he's having like a little party with some of his college friends or high school friends, whatever they are, and he's making like, or one of the girls is making eyes at him, and Chinako shows up, and like even now, like even after I have this whole thing, and yeah, I know that Chinako like still wants to be in his life because he's important to her and all that. She has this moment of a girl opens his apartment door and she freaks out. What the fuck?
She should have like laughed or smiled.
Or interacted like a normal human being and been like, oh, interesting. Who are you? How do you know Ro?
Oh yeah, are you his friends? Is he finally being not a fuck?
Yeah. But instead, she just fucking goes into like catatonic shock mode because Ro maybe has a girlfriend, I guess. And I'm like, I just don't fucking understand. Like, it is the one ship that we both agreed we don't want. Like, the
No.
Ro Shinako thing is fucking weird. Not least of all for the reasons of she's basically his surrogate mother, which is weird because I think he also has a mother. But anyways, but it's, oh god, it is unhealthy and messed up, and I fucking just hated it. I hated that Ro was a possessive asshole. Shinako didn't do anything to stop it, and at the end, somehow, fucking Shinako is like
Just okay
obsessed
with
with
it.
Ro's love life. Yeah, and like okay with Ro being a dickhead. Like, oh, I just fucking hated that whole thing. Other than the very small glimmer of Ro moves out and like tries to move on with his life. But then of course Shinako comes to fucking reel him back in. Like Shinako needed to understand that that relationship was unhealthy and just let it end.
Or let it change. Let it do something
Yeah.
other than stay the same.
Yeah. And
Um,
continue to baby Ro. Yeah. I
and
agree.
now onto the Haru.
Yes, Haru, a character whose entire arc can be summed up with has a bird and dropped out of high school. That's Haru's whole fucking character. We watched 12 episodes of
Yeah.
this show.
Talk about
I
another
complained,
character who didn't change and didn't
yeah,
grow up or anything.
and we saw so fucking little of Haru, and like we know nothing about who she is as a character. And like I fucking complained last time and the time before that about like Haru is not a character and we don't know anything about her and all this other stuff, and I want to know more about
But
Haru.
Nick, she's best girl.
I fucking I want to throw hands about that too. But anyways, like so this whole show is predicated on the premise of the Shinako v Haru thing. and like this war that they were going to have as to who got to have Rikuo. Um, we're just going to casually gloss over the whole like reason why Haru is into Rikuo thing. It's something that they brought up in episode 1 and again referenced in the flashback in this episode. I
It's a
don't
dumb
remember it.
crush.
It's a dumb crush that she had when he was in college and she was in high school and
She was in high school. She was in middle school. I don't remember. Anyways,
maybe
it was a while
she
ago.
she saw him one day and then had a crush on him and just never let it end. Again, people just don't let their fucking crushes end in manga and anime for some reason. But anyways, all of the unhealthy relationship shit aside, it's entirely predicated on this premise that like Haru and Shinako are both equally like interested in, and Rikuo is interested in them. Like they're both, competing essentially. Is the entire central premise of the show that we never fucking experienced. And you brought it up and said that like episodes 3 to 11 are Shinako go home,
No, sorry,
and
Haru
then
go
we
home. It's
or Haru got home.
Shinako,
Yeah,
go to my room and take off your clothes.
yeah. And Haru go home. Stop following me. And then we get to this episode, and it fucking infuriated me that like in his whole confession thing, he was like, and then there was this girl who was annoying and all this other stuff, but I couldn't help falling in love with her. And I'm like,
When would this happen?
holy fucking off-screen progression. When the fuck did we see any of that? Like that's the stuff we need to see for this show to be compelling. And we talked about it last episode where Haru saw Shinako and Ro. Haru saw Shinako and Rikuo together and was all upset about it. And I said it wasn't very compelling because I didn't feel very connected to the Haru Rikuo like relationship that was blooming. Now we have like that relationship is the relationship at the end of the show, and I just don't fucking care because we never saw them like we never saw that dilemma of Rikuo being like, oh, she's so annoying and she's always following me around and it's weird, but I'm kind of into it. I'm kind of into her. Like we never saw them have like positive positive interactions or like ways of showing that like Rikuo's like Haru's growing on him. Haru's like interesting and Rikuo's interested in her and like maybe something's gonna happen. Maybe they go on like dates together. No, every single time it's fucking Haru shows up in the middle of the night and Rikuo's like, why are you here? Go home. Stay away from me. Stop coming here. I am just so actively upset that that was the ending. We've talked about it before. We talked about the ending where no one ends up with anybody.
That's the ending. Having watched
that was the ending.
This is the end. That's the ending I wanted.
Yeah. That was what the ending should have been, was no one ended up together and everybody grows and like Haru moves on from crush. Rikuo comes to like have self-motivation and not define himself as like I need to keep going to like impress the girls that are around me. Ro moves on. Shinako like moves on from her dead boyfriend and moves on from her past with Rikuo. Nobody needed to end up with anybody, and I would have been happy. That is the only ending where I would be happy. Everything else about this show was infuriating.
everything about the show, or like everything about the ending.
Everything about the ending.
Okay.
Everything about the ending was infuriating. I hated it. And we were talking last week, and I was saying this about Wave Listen to Me, and I said like unless the show takes an 11th hour or a Suki-esque turn, my ratings for these shows are largely locked in. This was that turn. Up until this episode, I probably would have rated this at like a 5 or a 6. I am going to give this a strong 2.
Of 10?
Of 10.
Okay.
This was not a good show. This was a bad show. The only reason I'm not giving it a 1 is at the very least, episode to episode, like individual episodes, excluding the last one, individual episodes were okay. Like, the pace of them was not glacial, but, it was comforting. Everything was sort of easy. The, like, conversations were calm. It wasn't very, like, stressful or, like, overly, like, dramatic in a way that was just like, oh, get to the point. Like, it wasn't more than it was trying to be at any time, which is the only reason I'm not giving it a 2 or a 1. The reason I'm giving it a 2 is because individually the episodes were good enough. As a story, I guess the other reason I'm giving it a 2 is the voice actors. This is something you mentioned. The voice actors and the small animation ticks and all of that contributed that sense of like really what they were going through. So like you could really feel the emotion that they were feeling.
The technicalities of the animation.
Whether I agreed with it or not, or like actually had a connection to the emotion that they were expressing aside, they expressed it well. I didn't give a shit about it a lot of times, but they expressed it well. So I'm giving the show a 2 rather than a 1 or a 0, but almost exclusively for the technical aspects and the fact that on an individual basis, the episodes were sort of all right. But as a story and as a plot and as like the main thing that they need to sell me on to watch the series, the show fucking sucked. It was no fucking payoff at all, except to one thing, and it was the thing that I complained for 11 episodes about because it didn't need to fucking happen, and it was aggravating.
I'm gonna give the show a 3 out of 5. A three
Uh-huh.
angry Nicks out of 5.
That's fair.
Once again, I would rate the technicals more.
Mm,
Yeah, the story ends poorly.
like garbage. Uh,
They're trying to be super extreme here. I'm trying to
if I
keep
was
it.
to create an analogy for this story, it crash landed in the jungle, created a plane out of wood and sticks, took off, only to crash again, where it was then eaten by its Peruvian soccer teammates. That was the
Peru.
plot.
Hold on, Peru does not have. Wait, oh, you're talking about a real thing.
Yeah, I'm talking about a historical event.
I was like, Peru doesn't have a jungle, but yeah, if it's a Peruvian team on a plane, they could have. Anyways, um, like the voice acting was great, animation was great, and I think yeah, episode to episode it was pretty good. In my opinion, you could really connect with the characters, but like it definitely goes into just the payoff is not as good as it should have been.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's like 1 or 2 star bad. I think it's like 3 star. I wasn't as angry as the episode as I was with you. At this point,
Mhm.
like I stopped kind of caring. So maybe that's why, and maybe that I don't think it's a good thing.
Yeah. I
Um,
feel like at any point, if you reach a point where you're like, I just don't care about this anymore, it's probably a bad sign.
Honestly, I would say like after you finish the whole Shinako and fucking Rico stop talking thing, just end it where
Mhm.
they have the fucking like uh, handshake, and then boom, episode's over. Episode's over. Done.
Yeah.
Also, cut off the stuff with Ro in the beginning.
I really would like to see like after it's all been released, a fan edit where like they edit it together so that we have their relationship and that like the relationship ends with that scene of them being like, this won't work, we can't be friends.
Well, no, they can
Like,
be friends.
I mean, yes, that's the ending we reached after the we can't be friends, and then they were
Oh, okay.
friends, and then they were in a relationship. Like, I just fucking, I hated that episode. I hated that whole episode, and I will again go with just didn't need to exist. But, uh, I mean, the only reason it needed to exist is because it was important to have I want to be friends, and then at the very end, them finding a way to be friends and not be in a relationship was the only reason that scene needed to exist. I still think it was done badly. I still do not like that scene, and I think it was poorly presented. Maybe it was poorly translated. I don't know.
I don't think it was poorly translated. I think that is the scene we got. I don't know about poorly presented. Mostly like, I
Because
mean,
I only say poorly presented because I felt like Shinako's refusal of like any sort of relationship with Rikuo was so like final in her refusal, which was why I was so annoyed for all of those episodes where they continued to be friends.
right. I say it's not poorly presented because in the episode, I'm pretty sure you thought like that scene was good, but then
Mm,
they immediately start chatting again,
yeah,
like 5 minutes later.
yeah.
So
But
like
I just,
standalone, I thought it was good.
uh-huh. I just, I cannot with this show. It was glacial in pace, and yet somehow, in the 11th hour, in the final
It really
episode,
picks up speed, but in the wrong direction.
yeah, and it ends with the revelation of plot that we never got to see in some sort of Haru Rikuo connection that he feels strongly about. Strongly enough to say, like, I love you and I have always loved you and go out with me.
How would you feel like
And
if it wasn't like I love, but it was hey, like we can try to be friends, but it's probably not gonna work out, and I'm not going to love you. Like shit kind of sucks, and you have to be okay with that, because that's what I just
I mean,
learned.
that would be interesting. Um, I mean, this is, again, somewhat sidetracking here, but this is something that I generally want to complain about, but I think it's a thing that is largely true in a lot of media, not just in
Yeah, right?
anime and manga. but the presentation of like, I want to have a relationship with you, being I'm in love with you. I mean, that's a fucking
It's a
strong
little too
opening.
strong immediately.
Yeah,
I
I
haven't
don't.
I haven't really seen an anime or manga where like a character's like, "Hey, I'm interested in you. Let's go on a date and see if we like each other." I
Yeah,
don't think I've ever seen that. It's always let's have this huge confession.
I mean, just leading into a relationship with I'm in love with you. It's like, dude, you don't even know anything about me.
That might
And
be
that's
more
the.
of a translation thing, though.
I mean, it might be. You're right. The substance or the meaning of the words they use in Japan may be different.
Yeah,
But I mean,
connotations.
it's even a thing in American media is that whole idea of like we see it a lot in like uh series like long form series in America. They'll have like two characters who like build a romance over multiple seasons, and like the ultimate conclusion of when they finally get together, like you feel like the characters are actually in love because they know so much about you, so know so much about each other. And I'm like, that just it's fucking weird. But anyways, that all aside, if it had ended with Haru and Rikuo just starting like a friendship, like an actual they interact all the time sort of friendship, I mean, maybe I would have liked it more. It's hard to say. It's also hard to say how much of this we didn't see because there are 100 plus manga chapters, and I
12
really do
anime.
feel like we saw, yeah, the whole like that was the end of the story. It feels like. Maybe there's more. Maybe there's a whole like
Epilogue type
Haru
stuff.
and Rikuo alone, like their relationship stuff, where it's just their relationship, assuming that Shinako and Ro don't come back and do a whole thing together. Um, so maybe there's more chapters that are just Haru and Rikuo focused, but I just feel like that was the ending as presented in the source material, which means we must have skipped
A lot.
a lot of chapters.
The manga is also very highly rated, so maybe they didn't adapt to the correct scenes.
Maybe. I mean, we must have skipped north of like 60 chapters. I mean,
Yeah.
even if they packed in like 4 chapters an episode, which is a lot. I mean, that's an intense amount to try and pack in, I
I think
feel
this is
like.
also a monthly manga, so they're even larger
Yeah.
or longer. So
Even if they packed in 4 chapters an episode, that's only 48 chapters. That's more than half the show or half the manga that they would not be able to adapt. So we must have skipped stuff that was meaningful to plot development, but they just chose not to adapt because they didn't have time. And it must have been like all of the Haru stuff got cut. Because I did not feel like Rikuo cared about Haru at all.
neither did I.
So that confession came out of left field. And this is the final thing that I was going to complain about is your whole like Haru best girl comment. Is like I finally took a look at the anime subreddit
I
and
didn't.
it was fucking
I did that too.
everybody was fucking blowing the ending for being like, "Oh, they're finally together. I'm so happy." Fucking who? What are you happy about? Like this is the thing I was complaining about. Haru is not a character. Haru is a person who has a bird and dropped out of high school. That's Haru. We know nothing about her. How are people happy that they're together? We don't even fucking know her. She's just cute. Like that's why people are into Haru is because she's pretty. And it just fucking infuriates me that like being pretty is apparently enough character to satisfy some people. Like demand more from your media. At least have it be like your characters have plot like
Your
elements
character's
of their character.
relationship actually, it's
Yeah, is
good.
compelling. You feel like there's growth and development, and over time it like goes somewhere, so that the end confession feels earned rather than just it gets thrown, like it's dumped on us. It doesn't even get thrown on us; it just gets fucking dumped on us from like 50 feet, and it just does not feel fucking satisfying. At least in my opinion, it did not feel satisfying. Um,
Yeah, I was satisfied with the ending with Shinako and Rikuo, and then we
mhm.
got the whole like, oh, we're gonna do it with Haru, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, bitch, don't fucking do it. Don't hop on that bus to have this whole confession shit. And by the time I thought had that thought, it was already done, and I was a little annoyed.
Yeah, I mean,
But to wrap it all up, I think when I asked you this question, would you recommend the show? I think I know what your answer is. Although I
no,
don't know
I
if
would
you
not
know what my
recommend the
answer
show.
is.
I would not recommend this show to anybody. I don't think there is a genre of I don't think there are fans who I can in good faith recommend this show to. I know that people will like it, but my opinions of it aside, But personally, I don't think I would recommend this.
Okay.
How about you?
Fuck, I don't know. Like, if you want to see some pretty colors and like nice voice acting, sure, fucking do it. Just don't get pissed off at this. Don't get pissed off at me if you get pissed off at the story, because I didn't
Yeah.
recommend it to you for that reason. You can like the characters. Like some of the character moments are good, uh, but like it doesn't build up to anything interesting, and like
Hmm.
you don't get to see your characters, grow up and be better people.
Yeah.
And that's really basically the crux. That's my biggest issue with the show. Aside from like Shinako and Rico kind of moving on from this stuff, everyone
Yeah.
else and every other relationship doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't happen.
And
Nothing.
Rico and Shinako really only move on from their stuff. Shinako doesn't even move on from her own personal stuff.
Yeah,
Like Shinako still has her dead boyfriend, and like that's still a thing. And she has like major hangups about it. Like we just, oh god,
yeah.
I need to just let this show go. It's done, and I have expunged what is within me, and all that is left is anger at nothing now because I've yelled at the sky enough.
Well, and so goes the six
This is a
chakra.
really like infuriating part inside me. This is the last thing I have to say about this.
Okay, go ahead, do it.
Like
Spill the beans.
I mentioned, and I don't think it's going to be on the recording, but I mentioned way back multiple seasons ago now when we did the Maho Shoujo double shot of Ore and Sight, and I mentioned Bren and I were talking, and I said that there's only so many episodes where I can yell about a show before it just gets aggro, like before it just
Oh,
becomes dry. And the reason I said that, and then I immediately thought about this show and the fact that I've yelled about it for the past like 5 episodes, and I will finish with yelling about this show, um, is I wanted this show to be good. I gave up hope so early on Sight and Ore. It took slightly longer for Ore, I think. The first 2 episodes were so good, and then I wanted to recapture them. We never did. But anyways, um, I wanted the show to be good. Like I wanted the plot and the premise of the show to be fulfilling and the characters to be meaningful, and like even if it was glacial, for the plot to eventually work its way into somewhere and to like see realistic, like it felt like these characters were real, and see like realistic character growth of these people. I wanted so much for the show to be good, and it's why I have yelled about it for 6 episodes, because I wanted for this to like be a show that was good, and it just fucking wasn't. And that's why like here at the end I am just filled with anger about this, is because they took something that I feel like could be so good, and maybe the manga is phenomenal. Brandon said that it had good ratings, so maybe the manga is phenomenal and it's well paced out. Like even for being slow and taking 100+ chapters to get there, maybe it's like a touching story of character growth and things happen and people grow and it means something. Maybe the manga is phenomenal, but this show just fucking tore me apart for never getting anywhere, and any progress that there was in the end just didn't feel earned, or
or
it
it wasn't
felt
even progress.
fucking
It was just the
sour.
ending.
Yeah, I just, oh, and that's why I am angry here in the 11th, here in the final show. I need to stop saying 11th hour. This is like the 19th time I've
You
said
love
it.
that phrase, but it's a good
I
phrase.
do. It's my phrase of the day, much like the word blasé. um but yeah, it is. I am so angry here because I wanted so desperately for the show to be good and for it to be compelling and for the relationships to like I wanted to connect with them, and I am upset and angry that we never got there, and that is why I've yelled for 6 episodes, and why now I have released it all into the world in some form of catharsis. I feel.
If this ever gets picked up, if IUC ever gets picked up,
Oh,
people are
excuse
gonna
me.
go back to this and call us hack frauds for not liking the show, and I'm gonna say, "Fuck you."
Fuck
Anyways,
you.
let's go talk
You
about
have
Fruit
bad
Basket.
taste if you liked this show, and I will stand by that. At me, I will fight you, IRL.
All right, Fruits Basket, an actually good show.
Okay.
To be fair, I thought.
You need to start this too so I can work myself out of this lather now.
All right. So in this episode, we get Ayame back for like 2 seconds, and I was pissed off at that.
Yeah.
God damn, I fucking love Ayame. Fucking great character. But
We talked about this. We talked about Fruits Basket not Fruits Basket. We talked about Ayame and the fact that we expected to see him at the beach house, and little did we know he was actually just bumming it at Shigure's house
yeah,
for
and
a while.
he actually has a moment of sadness, of regret, where he wanted to be with the other crew because he wanted to help out Yuki.
Yeah.
And one of those short moments where he's like very sullen and serious,
Mhm.
and then he immediately goes back on it and starts joking around with Yuki and teasing him.
You can comfort your sorrows against my warm breast tonight. Yeah.
And then we also see I want to call her Haru, but that's not her name. Toru go off to sneak away, trying to do some schemy shit. Our
Well,
little
she's not
girl's
sneaking away. She asks to use the telephone.
oh shit, she does.
Yeah.
Okay, she's not becoming a schemy little motherfucker. I'm now sad.
No.
Well, she doesn't want to keep something a secret. Anyway, she calls someone we don't know who it is, but we know immediately after in the next scene. I'm not sure why sometimes it does this where like, oh, you don't know who she's going to talk to. Anyway, she goes and talks to the Master Shisho.
Yeah. Well, I assume the only reason they don't present it is because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty much immediate. Of like she talks to somebody, they have like a short conversation, and then we see that it was the master because she's there talking to him again.
And he's basically she's trying to figure out how the curse works and how she can help alleviate it.
Mhm.
And then Shisho, I think his name is Kureko, I believe. Anyways,
That sounds familiar, so I believe you're correct.
Kyo's dad decides to tell her, "Hey, this is what I know about the curse, and the curse isn't tied to like the zodiac. It's tied to how their bonds work. Basically, it's trying
Uh huh.
to push the notion that the curse is more about Akito's like presence over the life of everyone else, not the fact that they
Yeah.
can turn into animals." And Toru's slowly trying to understand this. Like, it's not actually the animals turning into animals things. It's Akito. He's the central. She's the central figure, and
Hmm.
she's the reason why everyone's so fucked up. She is
Yeah.
trauma incarnate.
Yes.
And
It
she,
is a cult. They
yeah.
are all connected to the cult, and to free them of the curse, she needs to unconnect them from the cult.
Hmm. And she finally decides that this is what she's gonna do. She's going to try. She's gonna set this goal to help everyone out. And she's just like, you're a fucking awesome girl. You're amazing.
Yeah.
I fucking love the dad. He's such a cool dad. He's super
He is a good
supportive.
dad.
He
Uh-huh.
bows to her and says, give it your all. And just like Toru just starts to freak out, like, no, don't do that. Don't bow to me. I'm just a person.
Mhm.
Um, but now we know that this is her goal. Her goal is to help everyone. All the Soma is finally like go outside, basically be free from the bond that keeps them, tied to the Soma state. And in the latter half, we get Kagura going out with Kyo. Because Kyo wants to talk to her, and Kagura's like, no, bitch, you ain't gonna fucking talk to me until you take me out. Um,
Mhm.
and they have this, nice little moment, this little date where they go back to the park where they used to play when they were younger. And we get to hear a little bit of a backstory of Kagura and how, she and Kyo met, and how she at first didn't like Kyo, more like she knew that Kyo
She
was in a
pitied
worse
him.
position,
Uh-huh.
so she like just wanted to talk to him so that she felt better about herself. She felt very like
Yeah.
this made her feel selfish, and eventually she actually develops that love for Kyo instead to kind of
Mhm.
repent. And then Kyo says, "I will never love you. I will never want you. Bye."
Yeah.
Not really bye, but
Well, not by. This
like
is the end,
yeah,
more
like
like.
this is the end of the relationship. Like I'm happy you're my friend, but you're kind of annoying, and I don't love you. I like someone else.
Yeah.
Very strong
And
words, but kind of words C needed to get out because she's kind
yeah.
of annoying.
And Kagura knew.
Yeah.
This is why she demanded we have to go on a date. I will listen to you until you tell me.
Yeah.
Kagura knew when she returned somehow, either because of,
She,
his
she
more calm demeanor or something. She knew that this was happening. This was the end for them.
she knew the moment that she saw that Toru went after Kyo. Is that
Oh, right, back
Kyo
when he
would
turned into the mhm.
that Kyo would fall in love with her because she accepted him completely, and
Yeah.
Kagura wasn't able to do that. But overall, like, an emotional scene for Kagura. I do say that she's annoying, but this show does an
Mhm.
amazing job at like actually making you feel about your characters and actually
Yes.
want the best for them, and then giving you the best for them.
This isn't veiled criticism at all. I don't have other words to say that I'm repressing actively about the fact that we saw a good ending to a relationship. But yeah, it was a very touching scene of Kagura knowing that this was the end before we even had the words come out of Kyo's mouth. And it was very final from Kyo, but I think to a large extent it had to be because he had been, throughout time, and every time we'd seen Kagura before, he was always sort of saying like, "Oh, you're so annoying. Don't touch me. I'm not your boyfriend. Stop doing this." It's like it was harsh, but it was the sort of final harsh of like, "This is for real. This is the end." Um, I've come to realize that I'm in love with Toru, and even if I can never do anything about it, it's going to end with me in a box alone. So this is the end for us. And Kagura knowing it, it was harsh, and you still felt for her, and she knew that it was coming. But even when it happened, she didn't seem like overly broken up about it at first. Um, and we got to hear about her backstory and sort of how what was originally feelings of like pity and making herself feel good, she rationalized into being love, and then maybe it wasn't love, but now it has actually become she does genuinely love Kyo, and that final breakdown of her saying, "I love you, please believe me, I love you," and Kyo, acknowledging her feelings as
Yeah,
genuine. I thought it was a very good, it was a well done scene of a breakup of two people acknowledging like this is the end of us. We both know that this is the end of us. And even if Kagura still loves him, Kyo is still a good enough like it's a good ending of Kagura saying "I love you, please believe me," and Kyo saying "I believe you."
I
I
believe
know,
you, but
that
I
this is
don't love you
true.
back.
Yeah, and yeah, and holding form to his own stance of "I won't, I can't, I not that I can't love you, I won't love you because I love someone else." It was a very good and it was a very emotional scene. Um, and it was presented well. I can't fully put into words here what specifically about it. Maybe it was that knowledge that Kagura knew. And that's that moment of you have to take me out if I to get me to listen to you. I won't listen to you ever unless you take me on a date.
Yeah, like in between her screams of in between her like the
Her fake voice,
her
yeah.
fake voice, yeah, like you get those moments of like, hey, take me out, please.
Mm.
And it comes off as very sullen and very like um, accepting of her situation, I guess,
Yeah.
or like, or rather, a better word for it would be just like
Resigned.
resigned. Yeah, like she's just resigned. Like at this point, like she knows she just wants to have this last moment with him.
Yeah. Um Listening to it, I know now knowing that you're listening to the subs and knowing that you're getting the actual Japanese voices, I kind of suspected you wouldn't like Kagura's like super girly fake voice.
Well, I also don't like it in the English.
Oh, okay.
Like in both, I don't really like it. I understand it; it makes sense. But
Uh-huh.
just in terms of my ears, like I just liked her normal voice a lot more
Yeah.
because like her hyper girly voice kind of like got a little grating to me.
Yeah.
That's
It
more
is
of a,
it's a little pitchy. I do agree.
that's more of a personal thing. But like she still does a good job at like flipping between the two, and when she's like serious, you can actually like tell that she's serious and like actually actively like not upset but very sad.
Yeah.
Fucking helicopter.
Um
Sorry, go ahead.
no, it was an ending that I think we all saw coming, especially with not just with Kyo's revelation on the beach of he's in love with Toru, but even from back in when he turned into the cat and we saw Kagura watching from the window. I think
Yeah,
we all knew that this
the ship wasn't gonna
this
sail.
yeah, at least not forever. And so I think this ending and getting the full backstory of Kagura here, Kagura and Kyo at least, getting their full backstory, I think it was a very well chosen point to put in that backstory of Kagura and connecting her to Kyo and how they knew each other and how her family, broke up because of her zodiac powers, much like a lot of the zodiac families
Yeah,
did.
although she does have a supporting mom,
Yeah.
luckily.
Um. So I think it was a well chosen point of connecting Kagura's backstory to her relationship with Kyo. Of like, my life was hard, but yours was even shittier, and I took that to make myself feel good.
Yeah,
But then to not to feel like a bad person, I've turned those feelings of feeling good into, oh, I feel good around you because I love you. It was an interesting way of going about it because I don't think a lot of like it's very rare that we see shows or things that admit like, oh yeah, I was just rationalizing other feelings as this feeling. Like we don't ever see like, oh yeah, I was rationalizing my feelings of the reason why I felt good about you was because I loved you and not the real feeling of I felt
your life's kind of
your
shit and it
shitty
makes me feel
yeah
better.
your shitty life made me feel good about my only kind of bad life. So I thought it was sort of a unique perspective of we don't usually see like rationalization come up as a thing in a lot of shows. So I kind of liked it. Um, but yeah, it was touching and it was meaningful. And this isn't veiled criticism of another show that won't want to be named ever again. Um, but it was still heartbreaking to see the end of, and the aftermath of Kagura going home and sort of, sitting in the
Crying.
moonlight and saying like, just for tonight, you know, just one last night until the morning comes. It was
It
it
was,
was
it was touching.
tough.
Yeah. I I guess so. Yeah, yes, it was really touching. Like I could tell it was touching. It just didn't really hit me like the other episodes did.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Just something about Kagura just kind of being annoying for.
Heartless.
What?
Nothing. I didn't say
Did you
anything.
say heartless?
No, I definitely did say that.
Oh, well.
That would be rude of me.
I mean, that'd be rude and incredibly true. Anyways, yeah, like it was. Yeah, I could tell it was a very touching moment, but I was like, you're kind of annoying, so you kind of had it coming. I'm
now,
only joking. I'm only making jokes.
now I'm just gonna say it. That's fucking heartless, dude.
Not that mean. Once again, I was
Fucking
joking. That was a joke. I'm walking it
cold
back.
blooded. Cold blooded.
Uh,
Ice water in all of your veins.
a little bit. Uh, but yeah, like throughout this show does a great job at having those touching moments and having a lot of moments pay off in a way that doesn't piss you off.
Yeah.
No veiled criticisms here.
No,
Um,
not at all.
but yeah, it was great. I think we'll continue to watch the show as it
Hmm.
progresses. I think we might even finish the show. I don't know.
We'll see.
We didn't do the first half of the second season, but we're the second half of the first season. But given that there's basically nothing to watch next season, we'll most likely do the second half of this season.
Yeah.
Um,
Currently, that is the
continue.
plan. We will more than likely be continuing this, unless somehow there's three really good shows that are that are starting next season as
And
like
that also don't have a second season that we haven't talked about
yeah,
from a show we haven't talked about, which is
yeah,
everything.
which is everything. So it's highly likely that we will be continuing this show.
But anyways, Nick, what would you like to sell out to today?
Well, today, to again date the recording, today is Father's Day, so I'm going to sell it to fathers. My father, I guess Brandon's father by extension, and fathers everywhere. I guess not all fathers. I guess I'll just sell it to my dad. Because my dad was pretty cool. He was a good dad. So even though I know he doesn't listen to this and probably will never, and I won't show this to him ever, and I only talk about this very vaguely because I don't want to say what we actually do on Sundays. I just talk about like, oh yeah, my friend and I have a thing that we do on Sundays. That's the most I ever tell my
It's a little
parents about what I
ritual.
do.
It's a thing we
Yeah,
do on Sundays. It's
it's a
close
thing we do
enough.
on Sunday. Yeah, I don't ever say the words podcast or about anime. Fuck that. Um, so he'll never hear this, but I'm still gonna sell it to my dad. He was a good dad. He did a lot for me. He took care of me. He was not abusive. He was a good person. So he was a good role model. So I'm gonna give a shout out to my dad. Thanks for being the best. You were my favorite dad of the one that I
Yeah.
had.
Well, some people have more than one dad.
Yeah,
Um,
no.
so
Well, I only had one dad because I'm just
yeah,
selling it to my dad.
I'll sell
I
it to my
originally
dad
was gonna
too.
sell it to dads everywhere, but fuck that.
As like a quick addendum, I will also sell it to my dad in Nick's sellout, so that I
Uh-huh.
still have my own sellout to
That's fair.
work with.
Yeah.
And
Like I said, I took that away. You get to sell it to your own dad if you want.
um, I will. Well, I have this other thing to sell out to, but I also want to sell it to my dad, so I'll do that and
Uh-huh.
this other thing.
Mhm.
Anyways, I was selling out to songs this entire season, and I'll continue to sell out to songs, and I'll sell out to the song "Earthquake" by Tyler the Creator. One,
All
because
right.
there was an earthquake in
In Wave Listen to
in
Me.
Wave Listen to Me, and two, because it's also a good song about a breakup that doesn't leave you feeling like it didn't make sense, or that a relationship should continue when someone else, basically your younger brother, is a complete fucking tool.
Yep.
Um, anyways, yeah, great fucking song. It's by Tyler the Creator. Igor is a phenomenal album. Earthquake is a standout hit from that, at least in my opinion. Um, and why don't I sell out to one of the lyrics specifically? I'm gonna sell out to the lyric. Fuck, I should have done this beforehand. Dude,
So if I remember correctly, to give you time, this is an earthquake. This is Earthquake,
earthquake.
as though
Yes.
I'm Will Smith in Independence
Yeah.
Day. Welcome to Earth. So that's EARF Quake.
Also,
All
all
one word.
capitals.
Oh, also all capitals.
All
There you
capitals.
go. But yeah, so Earthquake, and you have a specific line you want to sell out to?
I'm gonna sell out to for real this time, because this really ties in together with Fruits Basket. Hence, I have tied the song together with every episode, every show that we watch, every episode we watch today.
Oh God, you're the
I mean,
worst.
to be fair though, like this song is about like a breakup and having to be okay with it.
Mhm.
I should really re-listen to the song and read it again to make sure that's actually what it's about. Anyways,
Okay.
because I don't
Yeah.
think this because analysis
Well, it's
aside, I,
yeah.
this week I have no over analysis corner,
Okay.
so there is that.
So we've reached the end. I yelled at the sky in impotent rage.
Yeah, we've
There
photo
is
fucked
nobody
our
from
way.
Japan to listening to this because nobody's listening to this. So nothing will change and life will continue. And my rage will just be put on YouTube for no one to hear for the rest of eternity. But thank you for not being here, audience of Zero.
Yeah,
You are the light of my life.
go watch where you listen to me,
If you
and
ever do show up, I'm sorry for all the yelling I did for 5 episodes, for 6 episodes now. Um,
yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Nick
Thank
got
you
really
for
pissed off. I was resigned to the shit. Have
yeah,
a great night.
go nail a voodoo doll to a tree and then listen to Wave Listen to Me.